Hello and welcome everyone to FCI Live 2025. We're in our second week and actually on our final day of the 2025 series. Thank you so much for joining us. We have three incredible sessions today, all about finance, money, fundraising from all different angles. This is one I'm particularly excited about, setting the stage for funding your co-op. First, I want to thank real quick our sponsors. Our FCI Live champion sponsors this year. First time we've ever had three of them. National Co-op Grocers, Dot Co-op, and Colluminate. Thank you so much for making this series possible. So we're going to get started here in a moment with Aimee. And what I wanted to share about this one's a really kind of new and exciting angle to me from what we've offered, at least from this to the startup community. We talk a lot about here's how to do capital campaigns, how to do owner capital campaigns. Here's how to talk to lenders. And more, we're starting to have sessions about here's some information about how you work with grants, because that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of how we fund startup food co-ops. But the thing that we do run into repeatedly is who succeeds, has the most success, and is usually dictated by this thing we'd never put our finger on before, just the sense that like they had a real pulse on the community, that both their owners and the broader community, movers and shakers, thought leaders, decision makers, knew who the co-op was interacting with the co-op, was talking to the co-op. And we're like, this magic something. And I got a chance to talk to Aimee, who is a proud owner of Green Tap Grocery, which is a startup food co-op that opened about 7, 8 years ago now, in Bloomington, Illinois, a neighbor of mine. It's about an hour away from me. And we got a chance to talk, and she was able to put her finger on it and speak very directly from her decades of experience in philanthropy about what that magic is that makes us successful at raising those funds. And so I'm going to turn it over to Aimee to share with us this magical ingredient that we haven't really known how to talk to you guys about before. So we're so grateful for her expertise and experience. Thanks for being here today, Aimee.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks to everybody for joining me today. I know that it's the second week of a conference and that you have a lot of choices about how you spend your time. So I'm very honored that you would be here with me. And what I want to do in return is to give you some very actionable things that you can take with you on your journey that you can apply immediately. And I don't want it just to be rote book learning. I want it to be actionable. And so we're going to actually do some things today together. Now, before I move on and we start into our process, I want to just tell you a little bit about me, not so much every bit of my background, but I want you to understand why I care. Yes, I am a fundraising consultant. I'm a fundraising expert. I've worked directly on the front lines in nonprofits as a fundraiser, as a leader of fundraising teams. And my last job before I started my own business was as the executive director of Midwest Food Bank. I took that job because I was particularly interested in food scarcity, in our supply chains, and so many issues that I had seen in my tenure through social service. And when I was at Midwest Food Bank, those situations just really came into focus for me about the fact that we can do better. And there's so many good things that we could do in this country and with our community if we just coordinated it a little bit better. I was able, while I was there, to, I think, move the needle in a way that I'm very proud of. I was able to secure a grant from the state that allowed us to give money to support the businesses of underserved farmers and ranchers and give that money to people in need. And I think that that was very impactful. And it showed me that, wow, if we work together, if we really are all coordinating our efforts, there's so many good things that we can do. And I've been a big fan of our local co-op here who has helped in a lot of ways. When I was a decade ago or so, I was working in social service, as I mentioned. And all throughout that time, at various points, our local co-op has been such a blessing to us. I'll just a quick example. During the pandemic, our kids who we were helping in foster care at the agency where I was fundraising for, they ran out of diapers because there was nothing on the shelves. So we were able to leverage our relationship with the co-op who had a different supply chain of more sustainable type of diapers and help the children. So I wanted you to know personally that I'm a big fan. I've run into all sorts of different ways where I've seen it be a wonderful, great thing for our community. And I want all of you to be successful in your communities. And I hope this is a model that just grows and explodes everywhere. Okay. So with that said, what are we going to do? I'd like to get a feel for who you are. Are you as a group, and if you could put this into the chat, at the beginning phases of of your endeavor, or are you in the middle, or do you have a running co-op? I'd like to know who I'm talking to. If you could put that in the chat, and JQ will let me know as I get started. So, what we're going to be doing is building the foundational elements for engaging the community that will eventually lead to fundraising. I like to think of what we're going to do today very much like cultivating the land if you're gardening or if you're farming. You can skip some steps and get a little bit of a crop. But if you do it right from the beginning and you nurture your soil and you put all of the things that you need down and you take away all those rocks, then you get a bountiful crop. And so the community and what you do in advance of trying to get money from the community will really pay off later. So the first thing that you need to do, which is absolutely your foundational element, is to build a case statement. Sometimes it's called a case for support or a case narrative. Has anyone heard of this before?
We've got a lot of folks first off letting us know that we've got people who are in the very early stages. We've got people who are about to launch capital campaigns, and we have with startups, and we actually have some folks here from an established food co-op that's been open for decades that is looking to expand and they're about to raise some
Okay.
capital.
Okay. So we've got a good cross section here. Now, here's the good news. If you're at the beginning, this will save you a lot of time. If you're in the middle or you're already established, you can back up and still do this at any point along the continuum. So you're still in the right place. But you do have to do it. Now, for people who have heard about building case statements before, I'll tell you that what happens is you've got a group of people who actually decide not to do it because it's a little bit too much work, or you have a group of people, in my experience, who just do it wrong. There is a way, and it's proven, and it's a mixture of both science and community engagement, but tested well. Philanthropy is actually a very well tested field that has been studied. So we know that people react in certain ways to certain stimuli. And so we're going to just take you through how to build that case statement. There are 12 questions that you need to answer and that you need to wrestle with. And then what you do is you take the answers to those 12 questions and you weave it into a narrative. And that narrative becomes the fundamental thing that you use for your communication across the community. It becomes your social media messaging. It becomes your speeches. It becomes the things you say at gatherings. And so, really, if you don't have that layer, you really don't have anything. So, we're going to do that today. I have a worksheet for you, but I want to work it through with you today and then have JQ email it to you so you have that and some samples, because I found that if you have them in advance, there's a sense of security that kind of washes over everybody, and then they think, okay, well then I can do that later because I have the handout. And so I really want you to be thinking with me through these things. Okay, so let's get started with building our case statement. And the very first thing that you need is your mission statement. If you're an established organization, you probably have your mission statement. If you're not, you have to have one because it's your true north. It's your guiding star. It tells you why you're doing what you're doing and what is your intent. And it should be short. It should be concise. Don't worry about flowery wording. What's the truth? What are you really trying to do? And you have to know in your heart, or else nothing's going to work. Right? Where's your passion? And there's going to be some overlap in the types of mission statements that you have. FCI's got a great one on their website, but everybody's going to be a little bit different. And it has to be what's true for you and your community. So when you're thinking of mission statements, short, succinct, concise, true, not a paragraph. It should be maybe a sentence, maybe two. What are you trying to do? Okay, you need that first. Okay.
I know
Number two.
the startups have
Oh, go
heard me
ahead,
say
Jackie,
this a
please.
lot, so I was just saying that was my amen to short, concise, one sentence to two. If it's long, and everyone's like, we only have two sentences, and I find 10 points inside those two sentences. That's
Mhm.
cheating. Okay, I'm done now. Letting me talk.
No, I appreciate that. That's very true. And also, I mean, if you can't easily remember it, and recite it back. You can't follow it. You can't tell it to other people. You can't convey it well. No one can remember it. So that is really an extremely important part of it. So your mission statement. Okay, so then question number 2 of our 12. What problem will your organization address? Now, problem is a word that trips up people a little bit. So maybe if problem trips you up, you think about what issues are you trying to overcome, if that's a little bit easier. Now, in everybody's community, there's going to be a little bit different reason why you're doing it. There's probably a lot of similarities as well, but let me just see if your brains are working and you're listening. What kinds of problems or issues might you fire up a co-op to resolve? Anything in the chat that you can think of?
There's some comment first. I renamed problem challenge. Yeah, someone said that they prefer that. Um, Supporting local ag, creating food access for low-income community, food insecure area, low-income access, more control over our food sources, access to nutritional food, building community and connection.
So it's a bit of a twist with this question because you do really have to think of it in the terms of a problem rather than an aspiration. Because if you are not overcoming something, then there's no actionable items to take. So you have to think of it as, okay, we do not have this, and so I'd like to do this. This does not currently exist, and so I'd like to do this. And that helps you get into the hearts and minds of the public because they realize more easily why there's a need and why they should take action. So the wording is important, and that's why in most of the case statement exercises they use the word problem. But you're right, challenge is also good, and issue is also good. But do think in terms of what it is that you want to overcome, and you'll see how this all works together later. But thanks for sticking with me. Okay, your next question: how many people are affected by this problem that you have? Okay, so when you think about how many people are going to be impacted, that tells people, your community, how important this is. And when you're trying to figure out how many people are impacted, you could say, for example, that it's everyone in your community, the population of your city, or maybe if you're particularly worried about children's issues, you're talking about the number of children, or if you're worried about an unhealthy population or a population of elderly or sick people, you could start enumerating how many people like that or how many groups, and you have to kind of get creative with it. And as you're going through these questions, if you're not sitting around with colleagues or friends trying to hammer this out feeling like you're stuck, then you're doing it wrong. Okay, you have to feel these are challenging questions that are thought provoking, and you have to be able to come to the understanding of what those answers are in order to be an effective communicator. So, wrestling with it and trying to figure this out at the beginning is going to pay dividends at the end. So, if you're sitting there, even when I'm talking, going, I don't really know, that's okay. That's how it goes. This is the hard stuff, and you'll circle back with your colleagues, friends, family later and really figure it out. But you'll do it better having gone through it first here. Okay, next. Briefly describe your organization's history or the reason for the startup. Now, if you don't have a history yet, then you can just describe the history of co-ops, why they exist, and how they've helped. If you have examples of your own success, then you have to cite those examples so people know that it's a positive thing to do. If you don't have your own examples yet, you really need to get some from JQ or other colleagues who have set up successful co-ops and use their stories, because the stories are the thing that show the proof that this is a good thing to do for all of the reasons that you're going to enumerate when you get your case statement done. So stories, think stories. Okay. So next, what success stories can you share about the people your co-op has helped? So you've got success stories, but then you're narrowing it down even further to specific people. Your whole case statement isn't going to be about individual people, but it's very important to a lot of the community to have examples about things that have impacted the lives of individuals. So you've got your larger stories about how the community was able to move from A to B, and then more nuanced stories about a person you knew. So, for example, when I was telling you before, I knew that when I was in the social service agency, that the my company was able to get diapers. I might pick a family who was in desperate need and then was able to be helped, just to have that story in my back pocket. People can relate to things when you drill it down onto a smaller scale. So you've got your bigger picture stories and then your smaller individual stories. And this will just allow you to start thinking about these things. Some of you already have these stories, and as I was saying, if you don't, the other successful co-ops certainly have them and would be happy to share, and you can interject those stories into your statements. Okay. So, how is your co op uniquely positioned to successfully address the problem? Now, that's a bit of a hard one, isn't it? But how are you going to do that? In light of the challenges that you've just uncovered, in light of all the things that you've just said, how are you positioned to do it? How can you actually execute on it? People are going to want proof that you can actually do it. So think of it that way. Should they just believe you? Probably not, especially if you're a new co-op. So you'll have to have some concrete ways to say, because we have these learned people, we're going to be able to hire this person. We've got this kind of template. We're expecting this, that, and the other. And some really concrete ways that you can show that you are in motion and prepared with a business plan to move forward and to do these good things. And that gives people confidence that you have a plan that they're willing to invest in and they want to be a part of it. So it is not being scattered and any questions that they would ask you, you've got a concrete answer for. Okay. And then on to the money. What are you raising money for? You have to have a really good reason. You have to know exactly what it's for. And not just what it's for, but the why for. I'm raising money for X and I'm planning to use it this way. And then, so what? So, what does that mean? And what does that mean to the community? And what does that mean to them as individuals? And so, you're starting kind of from a big dollar amount and then moving it down to what, from the what, the how much, to the so what, and the meaning and the impact behind that. And again, that takes some pretty significant business planning to know how much money that you're going to need and to be able to break it down and to know what you're going to accomplish with it, how you're going to accomplish it, what resources you're going to put behind it to do the things that you said you were going to do. And having those talking points at the tip of your tongue will ensure the community that you know what you're talking about and it will instill confidence. So that's an important part. Okay. Now, thinking about the money, here's a really hard one that you're going to have to wrestle with once you have your finance down and once you have your business plan. What does it cost to change one life or for one unit of service and make it relatable? So what I'm suggesting that you do is we're continuing to break it down into smaller and smaller digestible bites. So you've got your big money. How much are you going to raise? How are you going to raise it and what's it for? And then we want people to be able to participate. So how can you break that down into, I'll call it like units of measure, but it requires some creativity. So um, maybe it's you've decided that a program within your initiative is going to cost X amount of dollars, and that you could reach X amount of people for, I don't know, like $150 allows you to X, or $1,000 allows you to X. And so you do need those smaller dollar numbers. And the reason for those smaller dollar numbers so that people feel like they can take a bite of the larger number. They need to know you have a grasp of the big number, but they're unlikely unless you have some, major donors. They're not going to give you that big number. They need to know you're in control of it, but that their smaller digestible unit of of impact can be helpful. So in your case, maybe that's how much it is to invest. How much is it to help with this initiative? What you'll have to get creative with it. And if go ahead, JQ, you look like you're
Perfect
going to say.
examples that do tend to come up here when people do go like this. So Oshkosh Food Cup was a really good example of this. They had a board chair who was very good at charitable giving and building relationships, and they chose to have in this case they were looking for community businesses that would sponsor pieces of the store, and so they broke it
Mhm.
into like $3,000, $30,000 is going to pay for this cooler and then, this cheese case and your signs. But it was like, how people are like, that's going to allow this cheese department to exist. This is going to allow our classroom area to exist. And so they broke it into, it's not, of course, that exact amount of dollars was going to be spent to do that exact thing. It was to help them understand what those chunks of money were going to accomplish within the store and that the smaller amounts could accomplish big things down to, this amount of it's hundreds of dollars for a shopping cart and people, that help people get their head around it. It seems like it's a similar thing to what you're saying.
It's a very similar thing, and to have those examples again on the tip of your tongue and already predetermined when people ask about them, and you'll see we're close to like weaving this whole thing together, and I'll show you how it all comes out with a sample. But just a couple more things to add to it, where as we're going from like big to small, from our mission statement down to the how the small dollars impact the larger picture and how people can get involved, as JQ was saying. So, what is the impact of that smaller amount? And she was giving some good examples of what people have done to say, well, if you do this, it's this. And you want it to be honest and ethical. So do try to break down those costs and make that real. It doesn't have to, you don't have to say specifically, 25, 75, but just let them know that it goes towards this because for sure it's going to take this in total. And if you break it down into this chunk, that's X amount per person that we need. Or if we have 100 people do this, we can accomplish X. And that's a good way to think of it. Okay. And the final thing is, what makes it urgent? And I use urgent a little lightly because that doesn't mean emergency, but it also means not 3 years from now. What makes it urgent? What are some of the things that they need to think about so that they would do it now or in the near future as opposed to a few years from now? And so there have to be some things going on in the community or some things that you want to achieve that have a time centric focus. Are you with me? So, what are some of those things? Um, maybe you're talking about how you know that you can you can accomplish or I don't know, you'll get a discount on the property if you do it by X amount of time. You'll be able to help the children with cooking classes at the start of the school year if you get this initiative in place by X. You can impose the urgency. You can decide what your timeline is and why it would be urgent, but you do have to communicate that, or else people will might agree with you and want to help you, but they're not actually going to do anything about it. Okay. So think all of these things are kind of weighty, timely things that picture yourself sitting around a table and you're kind of exhausted at the end of it. It might take you days to do it. You've changed your mind like 3 or 4 times on your answer, but you've finally arrived at something. And when you arrive at it, it might sound, I'm going to read you an example and then I'm going to have these things I can be emailed to you, but I want you to know how it all comes out, okay, when you get all the questions answered. This is a fake sample, okay? It's for Heartland Community Food Co-op, and as far as I know, there is no Heartland Community Food Co-op, so I'm sorry if there really is one. Okay, mission statement. Heartland Community Food Co-op exists to provide fresh, affordable, locally sourced food while supporting regional farmers and building a more resilient, connected community. In our town of 25,000, many families struggle to access healthy, affordable food. While fast food and convenience stores are everywhere, full grocery options are limited, especially when it comes to local and sustainable products. Farmers in our region often lack a consistent and fair market for their goods. The result, community health suffers, local dollars leave town, and the connection between neighbor and grower is lost. Heartland Co-op began when a group of parents, farmers, and concerned residents came together over kitchen tables and town hall meetings to envision a better way. We believe that food shouldn't just fill shelves. It should fuel health, economy, and community. Across the country, food co-ops have proven their power. In nearby towns, co-ops have brought life back to main streets, improved access to nutrition, and kept millions of dollars in the local economy. We're inspired by their success and ready to create our own. Heartland Co-op is uniquely positioned to succeed. We have strong community interest, over 300 potential founding members, partnerships with more than a dozen local farmers, and a dedicated volunteer team with businesses, marketing, and retail experience. Our early momentum shows that this community is ready. We are currently raising $850,000 to open our doors to member-owned grocery stores. These funds will cover equipment, leaseholder improvements, inventory, startup staffing, and every dollar raised gets us closer to a space where local produce is accessible, neighbors connect, and farmers thrive. Just $25 provides 1 week's worth of local produce for a family of four through our community share program, which I just made up, right? Every gift, large or small, makes a tangible difference. Your investment brings us closer to opening day. It builds a legacy of community ownership, food justice, and economic resilience. With rising food insecurity and inflation, we can't wait for this work. We invite you to join us in planting the seeds of something transformational. Together, we can feed the future. Okay. So I hope that you could hear throughout that, those were the answers to the questions that we had just gone through 1 through 12. And I'm going to send you the questions 1 through 12, and I'm going to send you those samples. Once you're already up and established, you can do that same kind of work with what I'm calling a mini case statement. And those are for the initiatives that are within your program. Like if you have a smaller initiative, you could do that same exercise again for the program inside the larger co-op initiative. So your case statements. Now, did you like that? Did you think that that was good, that case statement? How did it hit you?
Folks are welcome to throw comments or thoughts in the chat.
And while you're doing that, here's what I want to tell you. That is your long form narrative. What you do with that now is that becomes your building block, and you don't always have to give that long form narrative. Each one of those things, one sentence or two sentences becomes your social media sound bites. Your one paragraph is something that you can use to engage people and to communicate with them. You're not doing the whole thing all the time, but it becomes like your guiding document. And it's really just one page, but you're pulling things out from that page and you're using it all over the place consistently. And all of your partners, all of your volunteers, and everybody who is in this initiative with you is using it together. So that's really the next phase. So we've got this now. What are we going to do with it? So I think it's pretty good, but you know, I might be inside my own little sound bubble. So the next thing I'm going to do with it is I'm going to take it out into the community and I'm going to test it. You have to test it with all sorts of people. You can do it with your circle of friends. You can do it with community leaders. You should do it with influencers and even people who you disagree with and don't particularly like. You know, sometimes those people can give you the very best feedback. And what you do is with enthusiasm and excitement, you say, I've got this project. I'm very excited about it. I think it could be very helpful to our community. I would really appreciate your advice. Could you hear about what I'm trying to do and give me feedback? You are not asking for money, but you are showing them tremendous amount of respect and you're testing your messaging because you're going to be really surprised when you think you've worked on this for hours. And I'll just tell you in advance, don't be disappointed or think that you've failed. But when you go out in the community and you start testing your messages, you're going to find that people didn't interpret what you said the way you meant it. And it's very interesting. And it's okay. It's actually really good. And it doesn't always mean, oh, go ahead. I hear see your lips
Oh,
shaking.
I'm just on that along. Yeah, it's exactly the thing is I think it's we talk about this sometimes with startups and it to embrace is it that feedback, negative or positive, is so good because we find out how people are hearing what we're saying, you know, how they're misinterpreting what we're saying. How many of us, the first time we talked about our food co-op, people thought we were starting a farmer's market? You know, so
Yeah,
just I was just nodding along. And people were saying that it was very compelling, it was extremely helpful, it was clear, focused, and meaningful, tells the how, what, and when, very relatable. So yeah.
good. Good. So this next part, it's really an easy meeting to get because if with enthusiasm you approach nearly anybody in the community, if you said to them what I said to you before, I'm really excited about this and I want to ask your opinion, who is the person who will say no? I mean, I can't even think of the person who will say no. I can think of, people I love to people I hardly know. I think everyone would say yes. And those yeses are so powerful because you hear what they have to say. And when you read them, your case statement, when you tell them about what you're trying to do, you want to assess two things: their understanding. So have them say back to you and make sure that they know you're testing yourself, not testing them. Could you just paraphrase back to me what I said so I can make sure that my messaging is clear? And then hear what they have to say. And that will become your surprise point. Now, if you start seeing patterns that people didn't get, paragraph 3 at all, or they thought this, but it's pretty fascinating when people start reflecting back to you what you said, make adjustments from there. It's okay if people disagree with you too. That doesn't mean you have to change things. You're not going to, steer the ship with every cool breeze because some people just aren't going to get it. And maybe they're just not going to be your people and they're never going to be co-op supporters. But it's very important to know what they think about it so that in your messaging and in your understanding of community engagement, you understand their positions, right? So then the second thing to assess is how did it make them feel? And you can see it on their face or you can ask them directly and you want to the feeling that people get is the thing that they remember even more than the words. So were they inspired by it? Did it make them worried? um, and if so, like for example, if it made them worried, that's probably too strong on you hit the problem part of it too strong. So because you want to make sure that they know you've got the solution part. did it did they really not care? Like if they say, oh, it was okay, yeah, I thought it was okay, I thought it was fine, you probably didn't pull on your heartstrings. So what is the thing that could have made them feel a little more inspired for action? Feel free to ask them. And then the last thing you want to do at those meetings is say, can I keep in touch with you about this? The can I keep in touch with you about this is the start of your donor investor database. If you've already got one, add to it. If you don't already have one, start something simple and don't spend any money. Use Excel spreadsheets or Google spreadsheets, but you get all of their contact information. And in those meetings, if they've given you permission to keep in touch with them, you can send them your progress. You can keep in touch with them when you have quick wins. And those people become your people. And you can build them very quickly by having these meetings. Now, I'm talking here about one-on-one meetings, but there's a way to do it a little faster too. And that is by having people over to your home or having small gatherings. I find at this phase, you really don't want to try to have a big event because it's not intimate enough. And you want to really be able to engage eyeball to eyeball, who and see their nonverbals, see how they're reacting, and still be vulnerable with, I'm testing this. I want to see if I am messaging the right way so that my point is out there. Can you help me? And sometimes collaboratively, like in a group of 10 or 12, you'll get some really awesome synergy, which is like just as good as that initial group you sat down with who will give you some help and insights. And then you ask those people, do you know anybody else who would be interested in this? Who should I talk to about this? And each one of those 10 or 12 people has their own network. And then you ask those people, hey, can I keep in touch with you? Then you've got 10 or 12 people who you haven't asked these people for money. This is not money. This is pre-money. But I guarantee you, this turns into money. These are your supporters. These are your friends. These are your advocates. But you have to keep them on a list. You have to keep them up to date. You have to keep them in the loop so that they feel like family as you're building. And their networks become your networks, and on it goes. And it's amazing what reach you can have if you give an enthusiastic, presentation about what you're passionate about to a small group of people. And you be honest with them when you invite them over and have some fun with it. It shouldn't be a stressful thing. The I tell people all the time, fundraising and pre-fundraising, there's no trick to it. The trick is there's no trick. The trick is one real, honest, authentic human being tells another group or individual who's real, who's honest, who's authentic about what they're trying to do and what their passion is with no tricks.
Mhm.
And they respond to it well because they know that you're being genuine and they like you. And, you know, it might not be something that they're passionate about for their personal philanthropy, but they'll still not wish you any ill will and might even still help you along the way. But you will find in that people want to help you. I mean, if you had a friend, oh, go ahead, JQ.
You
I
have one
interjected.
question. It's kind of from further back, but I do think I was kind of wondering this too. Are you
Yeah.
suggesting that when you have these one-on-ones, that you actually read aloud that piece to them, or more that, so when we made this case statement and then when we're having these one-on-ones, do you want to like to read them the case statement, or what do you, how does that work?
I would, but so it's not awkward. I would tell them exactly why you're doing that. Tell them what you're trying to do in your own words, regular person style, friend style. This is what I'm trying to do. And we're really working hard on our messaging. And this is what we've come up with. Can you hear it and give me some feedback? And so that way it's not weird to read it. But yes, I
Hmm.
would I would read it to them. And you might even pause after each section and go back through, maybe read the whole thing to them and say, okay, now I'm going to go back through each section. And could you, now that you've given me a general reaction, how about the reaction for each section? And spend some time with them. But if you're just really clear and honest about why you're doing it and what it is and how you want to make sure that it's really good before you take it to prime time, then I think they'll be very responsive to it. And people love to give advice. They love to give help. If they can help you, they will. And also people love their own opinions. Let's be real, right? So be
One thing
happy to give it to you.
people love to actually, I agree with that. And the always thing I always feel people have to give their opinions and they'll never turn down free coffee if you really want to just take them coffee. But I wanted to mention, I know there's some established food co-ops in here, so I just want to give a quick little case study of how this works as an established. I used this as a general manager of established food co-op. So at first I had some one-on-one meetings with owners to say, hey, we're thinking about expanding, and this is why, and this is what we're hoping to accomplish, and what we might be doing. And we got some really useful feedback about how we talked about it. And then in this case, it's different. You have existing owners. We didn't let people volunteer because who volunteers can be a very certain part of your ownership base. We actually kind of lottery picked owners at random and contacted them and asked them if we could actually give them a gift certificate to come spend 30 minutes with us and like five other owners and talk about what we're planning to do and give us honest feedback. So I just want to say, like, these things we're learning from philanthropy here easily adapt to your existing food co-ops as well as your startup food co-ops. And now I'll be quiet.
Don't be quiet. We love your input and love what you're saying here. So so again, with fundraising and pre-fundraising, and it doesn't matter what stage you're in, it's the same. I think it's just really the easiest thing to do is the best thing to do, which is just to be real with somebody and tell them exactly why. And when you're in the small groups, asking them who else you could talk to or if they would be willing to have a coffee at their house. But I mean, you could have these small events at a family farm. Homes are wonderful places because they're comfortable. Get some snacks and some drinks and make it light and lively and just convey your enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is contagious. If you're smiling, if you're excited about something, people will catch that from you. And it's awesome. And they will want to help you spread it. And you could have one group of 10 or 12 people that could turn into 500, 700, 1,000 people over the course of a few months. And if your core group of people, family volunteers, or whoever you're starting with are all doing this, wow, doesn't it spread like wildfire? And if you're asking permission to stay in touch with all of those people, hasn't your potential donor database just exploded? It has. And now you're not starting from nowhere. You're starting from people who actually really know what you're doing because you took the time to explain it to them. They were excited. They gave you permission to continue to keep in touch with them. Wow. Okay, this is really something. And it's really easy to build because then when you are ready to go, these are your people who will help you, who understand, and you'll have your case statement and your specific dollar amounts, and you can say, oh, I'm ready. Thanks for all your support along the way. And that will work fabulously. Okay, so what else are you going to do with it? Let's talk about the media. If I say that, is anybody, do you instantly kind of get afraid and recoil? Because that's what happens to a lot of people. They don't know really how to use the media and how to leverage publicity with the media. And so here I want to make it really easy for you. People, I I have had decades of experience dealing with people in the press, radio personalities, newspaper reporters. They are such normal people. They are usually extremely hardworking, extremely underpaid people who would really appreciate being fed a story. And it also to be shown respect. Because a lot of times, I mean, they have to deal with a lot of negative comments for the things that they write or the things that they say. And so engaging them in the same way that you would engage someone else, so like when we were talking about those individual one-on-one meetings, you'll find friends in the media. You'll find people who think that the idea is fabulous. And if you say to any one of them, just like you would say to a friend or someone that you know, hey, I'm really excited about this, and I'd love your opinion. What do you think? And can I keep in touch with you about that? Same process, then all of a sudden you've got a media partner. You'll probably have many media partners, and they're going to help you cast that message far and wide. And when you're ready to go, they'll be publicizing your events for you. They'll be inviting you on the radio for free to talk about what you're doing. It's really difficult in some communities for people to find content for stories. So if you've got something that you can give them and they've given you permission to keep in touch, then you send them something that's going on every time that you've got something that's happening or you're at a progress point along the way, and they'll be excited about it. And you're going to make some good friends who will help you. I did that at Midwest Food Bank. I found out that one of the gentlemen who was a reporter just was a real foodie. I mean, he was so interested in food and food chain, and I think he had problems with with food scarcity when he was a young man. And he just was so passionate about trying to help me get the word out so that I could help other people. He wrote feature articles about what we were trying to do, just because he caught the bug, and it sure doesn't take too many people. And also, it can save you a tremendous amount of money because if you can get people to write stories about what you're doing, you don't have to take out ads. And if you can get people to let you on the radio, then you don't have to buy radio time. And all of those things could be important. And you might just choose to do those along the way as you put together your marketing budget. That could be a part of your whole package. But it'll be a lot easier. And it's so nice to have friends in the press as things go along the way. So I would just encourage everybody just to think of them as struggling community servants, rather than people who are intimidating or, kind of up here out of your sphere of normal communication. Because that's just not the case. So any questions so far about any of that or dealing with the press?
You don't always have questions about dealing with the press. Do a press release and they will all come to you. Yeah, it depends. I will say some of you I know have said to me, the press doesn't pay attention to us, or you're from a large press or large market. And the large markets, I just want to make sure I've said that if anyone ever covers you in one little tiny bit ever, these are a bunch of hungry people who are journalists who are trying to get attention in articles. And if they did an article about you once, then follow up with them and like, oh, I just want to keep you in the know. And we saw this work for Chicago market. So you're in a huge market like Chicago, right? And they got one person who at a big newspaper did something about co-ops. And it wasn't just their co-op, but they got mentioned and they followed up with him like, oh, we loved the article. And said 2 months later, hey, didn't know if you'd heard that this is something that's going on. And they just started like feeding him little personal emails and it gave him a niche to report on. So there are ways to do it in big markets too.
Exactly. And most of the time, what we do when we deal with the press, I use we loosely, but people tend to. You write a press release and you send it out, and then you get mad because nobody publishes what you said and they ignore you. And that's what you mean by, they don't pay attention to us. And they don't really know you. And especially in the larger markets, if they get, 20 press releases a day about all sorts of things, it's the same way as if you're applying for a job. If you know somebody, your resume gets moved to the top of the pile. If they know you, your name sticks out, and you don't want to take for granted that they should just publish what you say. Why? If they don't know you and you've never taken any time to show them any respect as a person or an individual, or that you care about them or their job or understand what they need, why would they? Because they're humans. So they deserve the coffee and the lunch and the tell me what I can do to make your job easier. If you get news, oh, what format do you like it in? What email would you like it sent to? What's the best way for me to contact you? Do you think these kinds of things are newsworthy? If not, what could I do to make it newsworthy? Or who in your organization do you think this story should go to? Because a lot of times the larger papers have some people that deal with one type of issue and some that deal with others, and it matters who it is. And that's the same at radio stations as well. So don't think of it as the press. Think of it as each individual reporter, each individual DJ, real people talking to other real people for real results, and it will absolutely work.
You have a
So,
question here in the chat. I'm just gonna say it verbatim because maybe you'll know more it applies to than me. Small local markets, do the same things apply for radio, newspaper, media with very small distributions?
yeah, absolutely. They can still help you and they'll save you tons of money with ads because the smaller the market, the probably more news starved they are. So you have a higher opportunity if you make a connection with the reporters and the press that they'll be covering you often because there's just simply it's a numbers game, not as much to cover. So you've got a really good chance. So make these people your friends and don't forget to invite them places. A lot of times, people only invite them as reporters, you can invite them as people. And just like you're not asking anybody for any money at the first gatherings, don't ask the reporters there so that they'll cover you. You ask them because you want them to know you and you want to hear what they have to say. You want their advice and show them some love about their expertise. They're probably excellent communicators and excellent writers, journalists who got into the field because that was their background and passion. So asking them about how your messaging sounds and how it makes them feel. I mean, that's a good group of people to get some feedback from, and I'm sure, they would be very flattered. So again, real relationships. Okay, so you've done all this. You've really got at the end of this game a wonderful group of people who have agreed to keep in touch with you and you're keeping in touch with them and you have your messaging down and you've probably changed it like 12 times now because you've had all of these meetings and you've nuanced it and now you know how it makes people feel and you know that it makes people inspired to action and what's going to happen is going to just blow your mind because when you have a need now, people are going to start giving you money without you having to ask. I mean, there's going to be I'm not saying you're never going to have to ask, but it's going to be so much easier because you've already opened the floodgates. You've already tilled and fertilized that soil, pulled away the weeds, gotten rid of the rocks, and now your crop can grow so much more easily. So I'm positive this is going to work for you, and I'm really excited about it. And if there's anything that I can do to try to help you as you're going through your messaging, you're very welcome to send that to me. You do not need to hire me to do that. I would be very happy to help you succeed by looking and being at one of the people who looks at your case statement once you have it developed. And then that could be your larger case statement or your mini case statement for an initiative that you might have inside your established co-op. So these are big things, and that's probably enough to digest for for right now because it is a lot. I'm saying it as if it's. I hope I haven't conveyed that I think that it's easy because it requires you to be in motion. But what I am saying is, if you put yourself in motion and you do these things, none of those things individually are hard. You won't be rejected. You'll feel so much joy and confidence from knowing that you're saying the right things. Your messages are going to start permeating all throughout the community, and people will be so excited about this before you even put a shovel in the ground. And if you already have a co-op and you've got a new initiative or you're doing a capital campaign, do the same exercise with your new initiative. Just start from where you are, and now you've got the examples of all the success you've already had with your co-op to date. And so you don't have to use somebody else's examples. You can use your own and talk about it with regard to continuing initiatives. And if you don't have good relationships with the press or you don't know them personally, great place to start, great time to start. and a whole new crop of people out there who you don't know, who you think might not be your people, might surprise you because there's a whole plethora of people out there on all sides of the aisle with all sorts of different backgrounds who care about healthy foods and communities and want to build something like this for the betterment of society. So I believe in you and I know that you can do it. Stay in motion, build your case statement, succeed, and grow. That's all I have for you today, but I'm happy to take questions.
As people start to get, if you please feel put the questions in the chat. Remembering Aimee has said that she's going to send the questions for the case statement and example case statements to me, which I'm going to email out to everyone who registered from the session. Give me a day, but you'll get it. And so we're going to send those out. And I assume, folks, you made an offer here, Aimee. Is it okay to send your email with that then too? So if people want to
Ab-
contact you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that for you. I want to. I want you to succeed. And I've looked at so many of these case statements over the course of my decades that I can tell you pretty quickly what you might need to tweak or not tweak. And so I'm happy to do that. If you've put in the work to build one yourself, definitely let me be one of the people who looks at it for you.
Uh, People are asking, do you also have sample press releases? I haven't written one in decades. I assume they're different now.
Yeah, yeah, they're a little bit different. I'd be happy to send a template for a press release, but remember, don't send that press release if you don't know those people. I mean, don't, you can send it and it's fine, but make sure you do the personal work to reach out to them beforehand, to all the people on your list. Invite them out for coffee. Boy, it's worth a couple of dollars. Show them some respect.
And I was going to clarify because some people are messaging me directly. Everyone who registered for this session is going to get an email within the next 48 hours with those resources Aimee offered. So you don't need to let me know your email. Aimee said she'd prefer just give them to me and have me send them out. So they'll be coming to all of you. Um, Great. And are there
Yeah, so
lots and lots of
I
people saying
have,
how enthusiastic and
oh,
how you're oozing enthusiasm. It's so inspiring. Any advice about, oh, there's one, I missed one. Any advice about tailoring the message to recruit volunteers or board members when we like need people to step up to do work rather than to donate money?
absolutely. You can take the first three-fourths of that case statement and instead of drilling it down into money, you drill it down into actions and what you need them to do and why. And it works exactly the same way. The one-on-one personal engagement, the asking them for their advice, for telling them what you want to accomplish and how they uniquely fit into what you're looking for and how helpful that they can be and their impact. So just replace the money talk to the human interaction talk and the action items about what they could do. And people are very flattered with the one-on-one approach to this as well. It works. There's people need to feel wanted. If you say, I've thought about this and I don't want anyone else to do it but you, or when I was thinking of this, I thought of you. People's hearts melt. They feel important. They feel seen and they will want to join you if their schedule allows. So again, the interpersonal work, it seems like it takes a little more time and it's a little more work. That's true on the front end. But the back end savings of time and effort and the multiplication of network will be astronomical. So do that and have fun with it. Have some fun parties. Be around your friends. You'll see it'll catch fire and it'll be fabulous.
I wanted to, so for those of you who are talking about the board member thing too, the one-on-ones, I've never seen a startup. We've given this advice before to say, make a list of folks that you guys can think of that you would love to sit on your board. If you could just choose people you know who you think would be good. And then we're like, and then ask them. Literally, and they're like, oh, they're all too busy. That's not the point. The point is to say, we really need X on our board right now, and I thought of you. We really need someone with this acumen or this kind of experience or this kind of mindset or this kind of passion. And I thought of you. And I've never had a startup who actually followed through tell me they regretted investing that time. Sometimes they get board members out of them 2 years later. Sometimes they got names of three other people they thought you should consider. Sometimes they've offered to contact those people, but it's never been a waste of time. So those
I
personal
love what
asks
you said.
again, as Amy's
I love
outlined.
what you said there. And never make the decision for somebody else if they're too busy. That person should decide if they're too busy. and never make the decision that they don't have enough money to donate or they wouldn't want to be involved because of X, Y, or Z. That's their decision. And it's your job to present what you need and to be enthusiastic in that presentation and tell them, and they'll let you know. Sometimes the people who can get the most done are the busiest people because they have the best time management skills. And they also could, help you the most easy because maybe they've been on the boards before, and they could help you quite easily because they have experience. So,
We're going to wrap up here because we're getting to the top of the
okay, friends,
time. So we're going to thank Aimee because this is terrific. Thank you so much, Aimee, for being here and for today's session. As I said, she'll be sharing resources and sending those out. So thank you, Aimee, for being here.
you're welcome. Good luck, everyone. I hope to see you soon.
You all know I'm sending that 2-minute survey to you at the end of these sessions. If you can take them, they really matter to us. We'll share the feed. It's going to totally anonymous. We'll share the feedback with Aimee. It helps us know whether these are the kind of sessions you need and want, and it helps us keep these sessions free as we can show that we're being impactful for you if these sessions are working. If they're not working, we want to know so we can get better. So please do take that. It's a great way to thank us for these sessions. We have just two more coming. A couple of you asked if you could stay and ask a question or two. Some of them relate to Aimee stuff. Some of you not really. You can stay, and we can talk about anything right after we finish up the video if you want. I at least can stay. But we have two more sessions left today. Financial foundations for your co-op. I'm really excited about this one, folks. I know this one doesn't sound maybe as exciting as some, but every startup food co-op I know has had trouble with thinking about how to set up their finances, how to start taking in money, how to do their bookkeeping, what's going to be important down the road. And every startup I know has had a GM who's eventually gotten hired who's gone, oh my God, what is, and spent months trying to figure out what you did with your bookkeeping and where this payment went. And so Tamaya Israel is going to be here, a very experienced co-op leader as well as an accountant, about how to do that early fun financial setting up as a startup or cleaning things up if you've gotten a little further along. It's going to be really useful. I hope to see you guys here. And then tonight we're wrapping up with the amazing Katie Novak of Katie Novak Cooperative Coaching, talking about reimagining co-op funding, talking about the new and unique places that startup food co-ops are starting to find funding that aren't how we were funding our co-ops 5, 10 years ago. And again, just because we don't want to forget, we had a record number of sponsors show up and to support of the FCI Live 2025, making this series possible. We are so touched by your guys' belief in the startup food co-op movement and support for this series. Every single organization on here, in one way or another, is working every day to support startup food co-ops getting open and being successful. So thank you to them.
Wow.
And I'm going to